Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast. We cover everything Major League, from spring training to the World Series. We've got your favorite club covered, from New York to Boston to LA. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast, where we discuss the top news all around the world of baseball. My name is Ben.
And my name is Jeremiah. What's up, people? We got a Game 7 tonight.
We talked about it last week. We would say next time we talk to you, you will either have us talking about a World Series winner and like a season recap, or we could be talking about a possible Game 7, which is exactly what we are going to have tonight. After last night, the Chicago Cubs defeat the Cleveland Indians 9-3 in Game 6 of the World Series, which obviously sets up Game 7 tonight from Cleveland, Progressive Field, Cubs, Indians, a historic night in baseball. We're going to have a World Series winner between one of these two teams for the first time in 70 years.
And what better way to decide it with a winner-take-all game? This is it.
Absolutely,
and
man.
I do think, man, the way that this series has gone has been really fun. I didn't expect Cleveland to go up to a 3-1 lead. I did not see that coming. I thought it would at least be 2-2 at Game 6. It did go 1-1 going into Cleveland like I predicted it would go to. But, man, the Cubs' bats are awake. They came out of hibernation. They're awake. They came awake last night. And that's getting to a Game 7 with your bats like that. It's a perfect time. And I do think, with the way the game went last night, I think the game became a little bit easier to manage for Terry Francona. That way you can rest guys like Andrew Miller, Coley Allen, your top relievers. You didn't have to put them out there.
I definitely agree. As I said, the Cubs win 9-3. They got off with a bang. They got 3 runs in that first inning. It was that, I guess you can call it a double by Russell, but the confusion out there in the outfield, like, I'm going to get the ball. Wait, I thought you were getting it. Wow, I thought you were getting it. Where it kind of just drops in between the center fielder and the right fielder there, which allows 2 runs to get in and gives Russell a double. That kind of set the tone early. At that point, it was 1-0, and then the double makes it 3-0. And then you have Russell, his next at-bat, he comes up in the 3rd inning and hits a grand slam to make it 7-0 just after 3 innings. So you kind of had it set up like, well, okay, we're definitely looking at a Game 7 right now.
Yeah.
But it got kind of interesting there in the 7th inning because you had Joe Maddon turn to his closer, Aroldis Chapman, with a 5-run lead, 2 outs in the 7th inning, a runner on 2nd and 1st. He goes to Chapman in the 7th inning in a game where they're up by 5. Obviously, he got the out. He pitched the 8th inning. He got out of a double play there in the 8th inning. And then the 9th inning kind of looked like he was losing a lot of his stuff. He only threw 20 pitches in total, so not more than a little more than a normal closing appearance in a regular season game. But it definitely looked like he was maybe losing a little bit of his stuff there in the 9th. Do you agree with the decision of putting in Chapman in the game at all?
In a way, because you have a huge 5-run lead. And there was a point in the game where the Indians loaded the bases. It was 5, I think it was 7-2, I believe. So let's just say, you do not use Chapman right there with the huge lead. Let's just say Cleveland Indians happen to hit a grand slam. Then that's the time to put Chapman in, I think. I think when you are heading to a Game 7 and you have a lead like that, I think it's best to save Chapman for, the big-time game because when a Game 7, everything is on the line, everything's a little more tight. Players are going to bat a little more tighter. It's a lot of nerves going into that game. So in a way, I kind of disagree with it, but in a way, I kind of didn't, because I understand why Joe Madden did it. But when you have a huge lead, do you really want to risk using your star reliever like that? So that's what I say on the matter. Like, what did you think about that, Ben?
Well, Madden, he defended his decision last night in post-game conferences. He went on to say it was just in the middle of their order. I didn't think there was any other way to look at it and feel good about it, so I put him in there. I felt like the game could have gotten away if we didn't get out of that inning. And obviously you have a 5-run lead, runners on second and first. If you maybe get a gapper that scores 2 runs, that 5-run lead goes to 3. Maybe you give up a 3-run homer, it goes to 2. So I can understand the decision a little bit. But coming off of Sunday, he had Aroldis Chapman go 2 2/3 innings. He threw 42 pitches.
That was
longest outing of his career. Now he throws 20 pitches last night. I think it kind of showed 2 things, and one of them maybe both of them, but they kind of set things up for tonight as well. Number one, it seems to me that Madden doesn't have much confidence in his bullpen, that he had to go to his closer in a non-save situation to kind of slam the door there in the 7th inning. The way I would take it as if I'm in the bullpen is like, you don't trust me to get 1 out. You don't trust me to get this last out and then maybe pitch an inning in the 8th and then we go to someone else in the 9th. Or maybe you even go to Chapman in the 9th just to make sure. I can understand that. Maybe just throwing 1 inning, but he kind of wanted him to go the whole game, it seems like. But in the 9th inning, he lost his command, and he was definitely showing signs of fatigue. In the 8th inning there to end the inning, he kind of had a double play, but then he stepped on the bag to get it out, and he kind of tweaked his ankle a little bit, so maybe that was bothering him. I'm not sure. It doesn't seem like it, but who knows. So he has a little bit of fatigue going on him, so he looked like he wanted to go the whole game, but had to take him out there. So it looks like he maybe doesn't have any Joe Madden confidence in his bullpen, maybe. And 2, I said you had 42 pitches from Chapman on Sunday. You have 20 last night. Tonight, if you have to put him in there, I don't see how he can go longer than 1 inning. He's already dealing with 20 pitches from last night, maybe a little bit of a bum ankle. So I doubt he can go maybe 2 innings. I think he can only go 1, which is really important. You know, Chapman's not a finesse guy. He's a power pitcher. He throws it over 100 miles an hour pretty much every time he throws the ball. So that will obviously make your arm very tired. You can't just go up there and not throw the heat because that's not who he is. So I really don't think he can go longer than 1 inning tonight if need be, which could be really important. You look at the Indian side, you have Andrew Miller totally rested. He's going to go, you have to imagine, at least 2 innings if he's in a situation
maybe
right.
3.
You have Allen, you have Shaw, you have the good arms for the Indians bullpen set up, and that could be really important. That could sort of determine tonight, the bullpen situation. So when you look at the game as a whole, you look at these pitching matchups, I think this is a fantastic matchup, perfect for Game 7. So for Cleveland, you have Corey Kluber throwing out his 3rd start of the World Series. If the Cleveland Indians win the World Series and he pitches absolutely decent tonight, not where he blows up, you got to think he's going to be the World Series MVP. He's only given up 1 run in the 2 starts he's had in Game 1 and Game 4. And then you go on to the Cubs side, you have Kyle Hendricks, who is the ERA champion and is on a 15-inning scoreless streak in the postseason. So the pitching matchup on paper sets up perfectly. I'd say with the exception of maybe John Lester, there's nobody out there that either of these 2 teams would have on the mound in this situation. So that sets up absolutely perfect. The Indians' bullpen is rested. With the exception of Chapman, the Cubs' bullpen is rested. So it looks like a great matchup on paper.
Oh, yeah. Really great matchup. But I want to go back to the bullpen situation. Chapman pitched a lot of pitches. He threw a lot on Sunday. That was a lot. And it surprised me that Madden put Chapman back out there with a huge lead like that. Saying, you touched on it perfectly. I do agree. There's no confidence in this bullpen for the Cubs. And remember, before the Cubs made moves to get Chapman and some other guys, this bullpen was terrible. Remember that. Remember, this bullpen was. We didn't talk about it in the beginning of the season or midway of the season because the team was scoring so much and they have a lot of powerful bats. And I think the fact that they came alive last night, I guess the bullpen kind of isn't really in discussion. The reason why we brought it up is because Chapman has been used a lot. And I would not be surprised if Chapman throws a stinker tonight. I would not be surprised by that. He's not rested at all. He has a lot of pitches that he has thrown in the past 3 days. I would not be surprised. I do think the fact that Andrew Miller and the other guys in the Cleveland Indians bullpen, it's huge. They got the advantage right there. So I think for the Cubs to win this game, they need a heck of a game from Kyle Hendricks. I think he has to pitch like 7 innings. Okay. I do think, because, you know, do you really? I don't think Chapman can last more than an inning.
I don't either. I think you said if Chapman has a stinker, then I think that definitely spells like the Indians are going to win. Because you have to imagine the only way Chapman's coming into the game tonight is if the game's either tied or in a save situation where they have the lead.
And I think,
you know what I mean, he's not going to go in there when they're down 4-2 in the 8th inning.
I think that can happen because when you're going against Corey Kluber, who's allowed one run in this World Series, and you got Kyle Hendricks, who's on a scoreless streak, it can be tied 0-0, or maybe the Cubs can have a 1-0 lead late in the game. If they're down 1-0, I think Chapman can come in too.
It's very possible. So let's talk about tonight's game then. I think a few things. Obviously, the pitching matchup on paper is fantastic. I expect it to be fantastic. I think the difference maker in the game tonight could be Kyle Schwarber. You look at his offense, sort of the DH role. He's hitting .333. You would imagine that, you know, he's going to get at least a hit tonight. He's been good all series long. He's a great hitter with his ability to not play on the home games at Wrigley Field because he can't play in the field. The addition he puts into that lineup as a DH is fantastic, and he can hit the ball at the park anytime. So I give the edge there to the Cubs, and I think with them seeing Kluber now for a third time, that might give them some sort of added bonus because they've already seen him twice. They know what he's going out there and throwing. Familiarity with him. He's already, like I said, he's already thrown 2 games, 6 innings each game, so 12 innings. Maybe they can get an idea of how they can beat him. Haven't seen him so much, so I think that might be something to look at with his short rest as well. But I said the Indians in 7 from the get-go.
You did.
So I have to absolutely stay with that. So I'm going to take the Indians in Game 7. I think the bullpen makes a difference. I think if Kluber can go 6 innings like he did in Game 1 and Game 4, that sets up probably Miller to go 7 and 8, or maybe if he goes 5, you have Miller for 6 and 7, and you have Allen and Shaw for the 8th and 9th. So I gotta say Indians in 7. I said that from the get-go. Why would I change it now?
And I did say Cubs in 7.
So you're gonna stay with Chicago?
I have to. I can't. I like what I'm seeing from the Indians in this series, but I can't flip-flop like that. I have to go with the best team all year, and that's been the Cubs. I do think Kyle Hendricks is going to pitch a gym. I think he's going to go 7 innings. I'm not saying he's going to pitch a complete game. Don't get me wrong. I think Kluber is going to pitch a gym as well. I think that we're in for a pitcher's duel, and what better way to have a pitcher's duel in a winner-take-all game? But I do think with the addition of Kyle Schwarber added to this lineup, I think he's going to be the X factor in this game. Remember, he almost had a home run in this series too. If he had a little more seasoning in him this entire year, that would have been a home run. So I do think he's going to make an impact with the bats. Remember, Addison Russell is hot right now. He had 6 RBIs last night. Chris Bryant is hot. Anthony Rizzo is hot. Their bats are hot, but I do think they're going to be kind of cold tonight because of Corey Kluber. He's been kind of lights out. But I have to go with the Cubs. I got them from the get-go. I said that it was going to go all 7 games. We both agreed on that. About to go with the Cubs on this.
Yeah, Russell last night with the 6 RBIs tied a World Series record for RBIs in a game. I mean, it's going to be interesting. Definitely the ratings are there. There's really not battling. They're not battling anything.
It beat Sunday Night Football on Sunday.
Absolutely. And you'd imagine Sunday Night Football, Dallas, the most popular team in the league, they would draw a lot of ratings.
And it was an NFC East matchup too as well, so you thought it would have a lot of ratings. But no, I guess everyone wants to see this, 2 teams compete. It's been a really high-rated World Series in a while.
It's going to be very interesting. So the Cubs have played 179 games. The Indians 177. And now it all comes down to one game. Hear about this. Did you see ticket prices for tonight? Did you see any of these stories?
I did. I think the highest is more than 19.
So if you're looking to get a ticket, just one ticket, right behind the Cubs dugout for tonight's game, you're looking at $19,500. There's some other stories I saw was if you're looking for just an infield seat, maybe 15, 20 rows back from the first row, market price is around $300. For tonight's game, $4,500. The average ticket price for tonight's game is $4,700. That's the most by a large margin, which the second most was actually last night's game, which was around $1,700. And the cheapest parking permit you can buy for tonight's game, if you're going to park near the stadium, is $450.
Wow. Damn.
Imagine what the Uber costs.
Oh,
probably a lot. Probably like $200.
If you're an Uber driver in Cleveland, you better drive tonight.
If you're an Uber driver in Ohio, you better just travel to Cleveland.
And stay tonight.
And stay there because you are going to make a fortune just off tonight alone.
I don't know. Do the Cavs play tonight too as well?
I'm not sure if the Cavs are playing tonight.
They did play last night, and they moved the game to, I think, 6 o'clock Eastern time because of the World Series. I'm actually going to look if they play tonight.
Yeah, so while you look at that, as we mentioned, Kluber against Hendricks, it sets up perfectly. 5 p.m. Pacific time on Fox. That's 8 Eastern time. Definitely going to be all eyes watching this game, and obviously you would think so.
And the Cleveland Cavaliers do not play tonight; they play tomorrow. At
night. Home, or is it
at home at Quicken Loans Arena? They do. So there you go.
If Cleveland wins tonight, they're going to be partying.
Pretty much the whole
literally June because they won another.
No, it's going to be a party during the whole night.
Yeah, except for the Browns, they're all partying there.
And if Chicago wins.
Oh, man. That city's going to go absolutely crazy.
It's going to go absolutely crazy. You kidding me? Like,
it will be nuts.
It will be nuts. Like, it will be on the news like tonight.
Oh, definitely. And even into tomorrow.
But I do think both of these like cities are going to go wild when these two teams face off or if one of them wins. But I haven't been this excited for a Game 7 since...
I'd say the NBA Finals. I was pretty excited for that.
I haven't been this excited for a baseball in the World.
Okay.
I haven't been this excited for Game 7 in the World Series in a while. Outside of the Kansas City Royals and the San Francisco Giants, I'm not counting that because I feel like that's a little biased pick there because I know I am a Giants fan. But other than that, I have not been excited for a baseball game in forever. That's saying something here.
This is honestly something that baseball needs. It's definitely not a popular sport when you look at some of the other ones. It's got a much older demographic trying to involve some of the younger kids in playing baseball. You're battling football, basketball. Now you have rising sports like mixed martial arts. Soccer's coming up in the United States. So baseball,
you got NHL too as well.
Exactly. Hockey near Canada and a lot on the East Coast and up north where it gets pretty cold. Not so much out here where we don't see snow in California for the most part, but so it's definitely a good thing for baseball and two big markets, two teams that are definitely hungry. Over 70 years when you're looking at the Indians and over 100 years when you're looking at the Cubs. So it's going to be a great storyline no matter who wins tonight, and I'm definitely excited. I will definitely be watching the game.
And I would definitely keep my eye on the game as well.
Definitely go. So we're going to take our first break here at the GSMC Baseball Podcast. After the break, we're still going to be talking some baseball. Got a lot of news about someone who recently was arrested. Not too great about that. And then everything else in the world of baseball, we're going to update you on just some small stories as we lead down with the regular season ending and now the postseason ending tonight. So we'll be right back, guys, at the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back in to the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast. And although the World Series is definitely going to get most of the attention in the baseball world, there's other stories that we still need to update you on about things going on around Major League Baseball. So one of them was something that happened on Monday, definitely a little unfortunate. So the Mets closer, Jeurys Familia, Jeremiah, not being very nice to his familia. He was arrested on Monday with a domestic violence charge against him.
And something I want to point out, Familia was among several sports figures in the New York area that joined a national anti-domestic violence campaign last month. The campaign was done with the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence and the New York City Council. So it was a part of Domestic Violence Awareness Month in October. But, after you're involved in an domestic violence campaign and you do this, I just got to say, what does that say about you as a person? First of all, when you commit domestic violence, it's a bad omen.
Definitely for anybody, especially for athletes who are kind of in the limelight. I'm not necessarily Familia, but maybe others.
Especially New York as well.
Definitely not necessarily Familia, but maybe others who are kind of looked up as role models in a way. So kind of not do this. And obviously he put himself out there to be a role model, stepping up against domestic violence, and then he kind of turns the other way and does a complete 180 and actually does that. Officers had probable cause to indicate that domestic violence was there. This happened, just on Monday, like I said, over the weekend, and it seemed like bodily injury to another was noted. The Mets issued a brief statement saying that the matter was brought to our attention. They're definitely going to monitor the situation. So we're not going to have to see if the Mets kind of treat this as, okay, you're done, or maybe you get suspended by the Mets in baseball for a while.
He's probably going to be suspended.
We'll have to wait and see. The Mets definitely have some things to think about this offseason. It seems like Yoenis Cespedes is going to be opting out of his contract to try and get a better one and become a free agent. So we'll have to see what the asking price is on Cespedes. Definitely a powerful guy in the outfield. It's going to draw a lot of money. Have to see if New York Mets will bring him back or he'll go elsewhere. So the Mets definitely have a lot on their plate. Now they have to deal with this. Definitely not a good situation.
Yeah, and it's not a good situation for Major League Baseball. And we were talking about in the last segment how a Game 7 of this magnitude, between the Cubs and the Indians, two teams that haven't won, how it was good for baseball. And all of a sudden, this news comes out of a player in that league. It's bad for baseball. And I'm going to tell you why, because this isn't the first time it's happened this year or in the past year and a half. You got Jose Reyes, who served a 52-game suspension, Aroldis Chapman, who is going to play tonight. It's a love-hate thing between him. He's going to play tonight, and he returned from a 30-game suspension this past year. Hector Olivera, 82-game suspension, and he's been, he was traded away by the Braves and was released by the Padres. So it's not the first time it's happened, and I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon. I think, in a way, I think this is becoming a huge problem for baseball, just like how it's becoming a huge problem for the NFL. In a way, so to speak. It's becoming a huge problem in sports, and for some reason, I think baseball is going to put more penalties on it in the future to make sure this doesn't happen again.
I was just going to say that. It seems like everybody you're naming just 30 games, 52 games, 82 games. Like, it keeps going up and up and up, so they're definitely trying to get more stern and more harsh on it. So I think that's maybe a good thing. Maybe they're trying to take it not so lightly and even more serious. So maybe we saw 82 games, maybe we'll see 100 games. Maybe we'll see the whole year. Who knows? So Familia had 51 saves in 67 games for the Mets last season. So we'll have to see what exactly goes on. There's going to be an investigation go on. Then they have to sort of decide what to do. And I'm sure we'll see appeals and everything as well. So this is going to drag out.
Yeah, it's going to be a month-long process. And this is very unfortunate for the Mets, who lost the other closer, I forgot his name. Jerry Mejia. He's suspended from baseball indefinitely for PKD use. They lost him. Then Familia all of a sudden pulls this. And now he's probably going to be lost for a majority of the season now for the Mets. So the Mets have no closer. The bullpen has taken a shot within the last 2 years. So it's very unfortunate for them. And they got Giannis Cespedes, he might leave the team to help out his contract for a better one.
Yeah, he's gonna get a lot of money in this winter. So you have to imagine we'll have to see what New York does. They're gonna have some suitors, probably from their New York opposition, maybe Boston, San Francisco could use an outfielder. So we'll have to wait and see what goes on with Giannis Cespedes. But one thing that did not happen, and it goes back to the World Series, is that Charlie Sheen did not throw out the first pitch in any of these games as he wanted to. People were asking if Wild Thing Rick Vaughn could throw out the first pitch, but the Indians did not allow it to happen. So now we might have the start of a new curse.
I think it might be the Charlie Sheen curse.
We might have the Wild Thing Rick Vaughn Charlie Sheen curse going on. So
it might happen.
Sheen actually last night tweeted during the game at 6:44 p.m. Pacific time. He goes, "Whoever is idiotically guilty of preventing me from throwing out the first pitch in any of these home games, well, just saying." And then he put like the copyright symbol 99, which is the number he wore when he played Rick Vaughn, the closer for the Indians on Major League 1 and 2. And he says, in parentheses, 7-1, the top 5, which was the score at the time. So we might have the Charlie Sheen curse going on in Cleveland now. Yeah.
It might happen because you remember the Indians were up 3-1. We talked about it in the beginning of the show. You know, we talked about the curse of the Cubs, with the GOAT, Steve Bartman. Might be another one with Cleveland now with the Charlie Sheen curse. And I think everyone and their mama was disappointed that Charlie Sheen didn't throw out that first pitch. I was.
I think two things when I look at this. So the Warriors had a 3-1 lead over the Cavaliers, and they overcome it. How ironic would it be if the Indians have a 3-1 lead over the Cubs, and then the Cubs overcome it? So you have Cleveland overcoming Oakland, and then you have Chicago overcoming Cleveland. So you kind of have like a role reversal, although it's basketball and baseball, but for the city as a whole. So I think that could be kind of interesting. And two, I'm kind of surprised that they didn't do anything with Major League in this whole postseason. Because
yeah, me too.
Some of the greatest baseball movies, I think of The Sandlot, I think of Major League 1 and 2, Field of Dreams, A League of Their Own, a lot of great ones. And then with the Cubs, you have like the Rookie of the Year, the little kid who like falls and has a great arm all of a sudden. So Henry Rowan Gardner or whatever. So they didn't do anything with that either. So I thought that was kind of surprising in a way, but I was really surprised that the Indians didn't do anything with Major League, given the success of that series.
Exactly.
So I don't know. Maybe because Charlie Sheen, you look at him now and his image is just totally, gone in the toilet. But maybe like 10 years ago, something might have happened if they were there.
Yeah, if it was Charlie Sheen and beginning of 2.5 Men, this would have been a no-brainer. And to what you just said, that I'm actually not surprised now that they didn't do this because of Charlie Sheen's image in the past 5 years in the media.
Yeah, with all his drugs and winning, and now he's HIV positive and everything.
Exactly. So I'm really surprised they didn't do that, and they probably didn't want to shed that light on the franchise. But at the end of the day, we want to see, Wild Thing Ricky Vaughn one more time.
It won't happen in this postseason. So maybe if they get back there next year, we'll have to see what happens.
Or maybe if they make Major League 3, 4, 3,
they make 4 all of a sudden, like just years later. But yeah, I love those movies, man. 1 and 2, 3, I wasn't a big fan of.
I wasn't a big fan of 3.
But
either.
1 and 2 were just absolutely fantastic. I know that Major League 1 is on Netflix. So if you're interested in watching that again, or if you haven't seen it, it's absolutely hysterical. So you can always watch that on Netflix, and maybe if you are in the area of like red boxing, maybe they have it out there, or you can always just find them other ways. So.
Or I just want to say something about Major League 1 and 2. I'm still not a fan of switching the actor for Willie Mays Hayes. I actually like Wesley Snipes as Willie Mays Hayes. How are you going to switch it with Omar Epps?
Well, things happen. Like you have contracts fall out. Think about Chris Tucker with Friday. He didn't do next Friday or Friday after next because of contract issues.
Not only that, but his personality kind of changed in a way. He became a Christian, so there's other impact in that. But can you imagine
things happen?
Can you imagine what Charlie Sheen and Wesley Snipes did offset? I'm just gonna throw that out there. Boom.
It's
been a real crazy time.
I guess we'll just leave it with that curveball.
There
no pun intended. But we'll
Yeah.
take our last break, and after break we have sort of an update on the Jose Fernandez I don't know what you want to call it. Tragedy, saga. I guess I'll go with tragedy.
We'll have an update on news regarding Jose Fernandez. Let's just say that.
And definitely news tied back to the killing of himself with others on that tragic boat accident, and probably reasons as to why that happened. So unfortunate news, but we will always update you with that right after the break here at the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast. And we got some news regarding Jose Fernandez boating accident that caused the death of himself and 2 other people. And that's accident. So the news came out earlier, I think, late last week.
I think it was on Saturday.
Yeah, over the weekend. Apparently, due to, I think it was a toxicology report. Yeah, toxicology report stated that there was cocaine and his blood alcohol level was nearly twice the legal limit during the time of his boat accident. And there's a lot of criticism about this, saying that maybe this shouldn't have been public and maybe it should be private. Maybe it should be public. I'm not going to state what I think about that. But all I got to say is that I think the Marlins are still retiring his number because of, the whole tragedy. But, it's just unfortunate news regarding even more unfortunate news.
You have to go public with this information.
Yeah.
You have to give some sort of insight. Obviously, I'm not saying this is the sole reason, but you can contribute a lot of it to these 2 things. Double the legal limit. In California, if you're looking at legal limit, it's 0.08, so double that would be 0.16. You have cocaine in your system as well, which drugs and alcohol never mix well, let alone cocaine, something like that, with double the legal limit of alcohol. So that's absolutely terrible. But you gotta go public with this. You gotta let people know what you come up, what findings you obviously discover, what sort of reasoning this could have had behind it, and obviously this is a big one. So let's just say, for instance, nothing happens, but he has cocaine in his system, then he's definitely going to be looking at a suspension with how baseball tests and everything. So you have to imagine that this cocaine was probably within really, really recent of the accident, probably that night, maybe a little beforehand. It's not like he just does it all the time. He would have tested negative for a drug test and been suspended for a long time. With how baseball tests them so often, with the threat of steroids and everything else, he would have been found with that in his system way earlier. So you have to imagine this is just, he's 24 years old, he's still a young guy, kind of just made a couple mistakes, and obviously it cost his life.
Yeah, and not only cost his life, it cost 2 other people's lives as well. We can't forget about those 2 people in this accident. And you said that, this report should be public. I think the fact that this was public shows a lot of younger kids in the generation of these kids look up to baseball players, not just baseball players but professional athletes yet alone. I think this shows what young people here that want to be professional athlete or just are an athlete right now, for that matter, if you happen to take one mishap or has to be a misstep, so to speak, it can really not only cause great harm to yourself, it can cause great harm to others and your family. Because remember, this not only caused harm to Jose Fernandez, it caused harm to his family, his 2 friends, and the 2 families of his 2 friends. So, it impacted a lot of people. And I think with this report, it shows a lot of young people that, these things shouldn't be bothered with if you really want to be successful in the world of sports. that's all I got to say about this.
I think that's definitely fair. You kind of, like you said, it only takes one. It only takes one thing to really ultimately cost your life in this situation.
Yeah, it can happen just like that in the snap of your finger.
It only takes one time, one mistake, one bad decision to really change everything. Like you said, it hurts all people involved. It hurts the Marlins organization. They have to replace the ace of their staff now and the future of their staff, which is not an easy thing to do. It's not like you can just turn the page and, okay, here's our next guy.
It's kind of like an ace of the staff is kind of like finding a quarterback of a franchise in the NFL. It's kind of similar.
Yeah, you can't, like I said, you can't just turn the page and, okay, bam, we'll pick this guy. He's going to be a star all of a sudden. Like, it's not that easy. So you have to sort of go and do a lot of searching now. That's why you obviously rely heavily on your scout department. And the Marlins have a lot of good young players. So obviously they're having success. Just need to kind of develop them and see how they do. But it's definitely not a good situation. But we have to make these reports public, man. You have to sort of give people some sort of reasoning as to why things happen. You can't just hold it in there forever and not let anybody know. But it's definitely unfortunate, but obviously just bad decision, and it ultimately cost his life.
Yeah, and I do think the Marlins are still going to retire his number.
Which I think they honestly should.
Yeah.
You know, he meant a lot to the team, meant a lot to that city especially. So although he did make a mistake and cost his life, you still have to honor him and everything he did for your organization, your city, the teammate he was. It's definitely something that needs to be honored still, and I would still do it. I wouldn't take that away from him.
Yeah, he meant a lot to a city that has a high population of Cuban people.
Yeah, really, it's right
Cuban
there.
residents. So that's why he was meant so much to that city, because of the Cuban, ethnicity. And rightfully so, I do agree that his number should still be retired. He meant so much to this team, and it was a huge shock to baseball. And I think if they don't retire the number because of this, I think it might be kind of a shot in the face of some of his teammates, his then teammates for that matter, on that team, like D. Gordon, Giancarlo Stanton, those guys.
And I don't see that happening. If for some reason they did, they'd have to face outrage from the teammates you mentioned, fans, people around the sport, so I don't think that will happen. But we'll have to wait and see, and we'll always update everything that goes on in baseball here at the GSMC Baseball Podcast. So, unfortunately, with that unfortunate news, but we're going to end the show today. Talked a lot of World Series. It's obviously going to grab a lot of attention. Game 7 tonight. I am absolutely pumped up. So
you got Cubs. I mean, you got Indians.
Yes.
I got Cubs. Do you have a score or anything?
Go ahead.
I think it's going to be 2-1 Cubs.
It's going to be a low-scoring game. Honestly, I want to say the team to score first probably wins. I'm going to say 3-2. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. You said 2-1, so I'm not going to replicate what you said. So I'll say 3-2. I don't think it's going to be anything like last night's game where it was a 6-run difference.
I almost said 1-0, but I kind of wanted to see some runs scored.
Kluber did that in Game 4. I mean, so it is possible. But always, we will be back next week with a little bit of a different show. Obviously, we won't have any more games to talk about. We'll sort of review this, any other news that goes on in baseball. So maybe we'll do some award predictions now that the season's over. We have the awards coming up, within this month, couple of weeks, they'll be handed out. So maybe we'll talk some Tim Tebow news.
Maybe. We almost talked about him on today's show.
He's getting hurt stealing bases with his 147 average, which is 7th worst in the fall league. But
that's your boy right there.
That's my boy. Maybe he'll turn things around and get his leg healthy as well. But anyways, we're going to end the show today. My name is Ben.
And I'm Jeremiah.
And we would like to thank you for listening at the GSMC Baseball Podcast. Make sure you watch Game 7 tonight. It's going to be very, very exciting. And just stay up to date with baseball. I know the season might be ending, but that's not a reason to not follow the sport anymore. So thanks for listening, guys, and we are out of here.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.